Hello, welcome to the video on conditional statements and converses. This is our second example set B. And what we're going to do here is we're going to use the conditional statements that are here, these three conditional or if-then statements, and we're going to use those to write the converse. And if you recall from the lesson, the converse of a statement is simply the statement or the conditional statement where we rewrite or we switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. So the first thing you need to do is to be able to identify what the hypothesis is, okay, in the statement and the conclusion. So here, if you are at least 16 years old, okay, so this right here is the hypothesis, and this part, then you can drive, this is the conclusion. And we can actually use variables here. This is the P and this is the Q. All right, or P implies Q is what we're saying here. If P, then Q. So the converse, recall, is Q implies P. So we're going to make a new if-then or new conditional statement where we simply take the conclusion and make that into our hypothesis, and then our old hypothesis will be the new conclusion. So let's go ahead and do that. So if you can drive, you can drive. Okay, so this is our new hypothesis. Okay, so if you can drive, then you are at least 16. Okay, so you are at least 16 years old. Okay, and this, let's go ahead and use a different color. You can see is our new conclusion, but all we did was reverse or switch the hypothesis and conclusion, and we came up with a new statement. Okay, so if you can drive, then you are at least 16. And if your sentence isn't precisely exactly this way, it's not a big deal, but you want to try to make it as grammatically, kind of use the same words, the same phrases here the best you can. All right, so that's pretty much all we're doing here. Let's go on to our next sentence here. If the sun is out, then you can get a tan. All right, so once again, let's identify the hypothesis. Okay, this is the hypothesis of the original conditional. Okay, and this is the conclusion. So let's go ahead and make a new sentence where we switch those two. So if you can get a tan, or if you got a tan, I guess is a way of saying it. If you, it's really bad grammar, but I think we both understand what I'm trying to say here. If you got a tan, then the sun was out. Okay, maybe it's a good way of saying it. Or the sun is out. Okay, or if you're getting a tan, then the sun is out. Or if you got a tan, then the sun was out. And once again, you can see here all I did, this is the new conclusion, which was the old hypothesis, and the new hypothesis was the old conclusion. All right, that's all the converse is. And we'll finish up this exercise by doing this last one. If you're at school, then you're in class. All right, so if you are in class, then you are at school. All right, gotta put school right here. And we can see here once again how we just switch those hypothesis and conclusions, and we form the converse. That's the important part. And one thing too, if you remember, we talked about if and only if statements. Sometimes the conditional part of a statement is true, the if-then part is true, and then oftentimes when we form the converse is not true. And sometimes the conditional can be false, but when you form the converse, or you take a look at the converse, it actually makes sense. So here, let's just kind of quickly look at this. If you're at school, then you're in class. Well, no, you could be at school. Let's say you go to a physical, an actual, you don't go to school online. But let's say you're at your high school and you were in the gym, for example. So if you're at school, no, you don't have to necessarily be in class. You could be at the cafeteria or whatever. But if you are in class, and you go to a particular high school, if you're in class, then yeah, you're definitely at school. So in this case, we can state that the conditional itself is false, but converse appears to be true. So that you just never know. And if and only if statements, to digress here for a second, is where the statement or the conditional is true and the converse is only true. Okay, but of course we have to examine the statements to see if those are the cases. All right, so hopefully this is all making sense to you, and hopefully it's also pretty easy. But if you have any questions, just keep referring back to the lesson, and of course you want to be taking good notes. All right, we'll see you soon.